Hey guys, so May is done and it is time to talk about the staggering amount of things I was able to get done this month. Hey guys, if you are new here, welcome to the Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if this isn't your first rodeo, thanks for sticking around. So I'm wearing it's so funny because in the thing here, I mean, if you don't know the symbol, you're going to be questioning it because all that you're seeing is the I drink. There is the I know things as I lean back and like show you my lovely double chin. Yes, this is my Tyrion Lannister shirt because Tyrion, I do have him. Oh, I got to swing this way back there. Tyrion is my favorite Game of Thrones character. In case you were wondering, I absolutely adore him and love him, and he was my favorite, and literally to the point where I was ready to scream at the TV if they killed him off. So, anywho, we are wearing that just in case you're wondering because, like I said, all you're seeing is the I drink, and that just, yeah. So anyway, got a lot accomplished in May. Did not think I would get this much done, to be honest. I really didn't. I just had like 5 or 6 books that I wanted to get done. We got done so much more. So much more. So right now, May is tied with February for the most books read so far this year. I read both 14 books in February and 14 books in May. Staggering. No idea where that energy came from, but it was there. And what's interesting is back in February when I did it, I was reading a lot of really short ebooks. So my page count in February was like 3,533, which is a lot. But I was just like, when you get to what we did in May, which I'm going to tell you at the end, I was kind of blown away, so keep that number in mind. But basically, let's go ahead, let's get to it. I'm going to go through what I read. I'm not going to go into too much detail because obviously 14 books is a lot to go through. There are some other videos that I go into more depth with some of these books, but I will tell you the ones that I read that weren't part of those other videos, give you a little blurb about them, and then for the ones that I did cover in other videos, I will refer to those videos, link them down below so you can check them out in all their glory. But I will be letting you know how they fit into the Escape the Readathon and any other readathons or challenges that they might have been a part of. So we will get started. First up, I ended up getting a arc for Cross-Checked by Cal O'Reilly. I did not realize this was book 2 in the Walker University series, and I had not read book 1. So luckily for me, book 1 was available on Kindle Unlimited. So I went ahead and read that as our first book of the month, and that was Iced by Cal O'Reilly. Once again, this is Walker University, book 1. This is a hockey romance, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really liked it. In this story, you have Grace, who is kind of your bookish, shy girl. She has come following her bestie, Kellen. They grew up together in a small town, and she is in love with Kellen, and Kellen, for lack of a better term, is basically using her as like the back burner. She's the one in case everything else fails. And she's just kind of brokenhearted because she's realizing this. And she ends up meeting Clayton. Clayton is the current captain of the team, and he is struggling a little bit in some of his educational goals in college. And so, of course, Grace gets tagged in to tutor him. And as they're tutoring, he starts to see right off the bat these wonderful things about Grace. And he finds out that she is, friends with Kellen, who is also on the team. He's kind of the young rookie hotshot, thinks he knows everything. And so there's an immediate butting of heads. And once Kellen starts seeing Clayton and Grace interact, he suddenly has this epiphany of, oh no, I've been wrong and Grace is mine and I really love her and you shouldn't come between us, all while Grace and Clayton are kind of starting to grow together as a very, very, very sweet friends to lovers kind of situation. I really loved this. I loved how gentle their relationship was. It wasn't hot and bothered. It wasn't all these things, but it was just this caring that they gave one another, that you could see the slow development of that realistic friends to lovers situation. And it was nice to see Grace kind of coming out of her shell and realizing her own worth and the friends that were around her that she was discovering for herself and not through other people. So that was just really nice to kind of find and figure out. And I really just enjoyed it. I really, really liked the story. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. This I ended up reading for the Escape the Readathon for the theater room as a popcorn read. And this was just basically a fun little read that I picked up and read, and we will leave it at that. So obviously, because I ended up reading Iced, I then had to go to the arc of Cross-Checked, which is book 2 in Walker University. This one I didn't like as much. This is basically Kellen's story, and kind of it trickles over from the first one, and how Kellen now meets Cora. And I obviously, by me doing this, you're going to see kind of what the ending is for the Iced book, but I think that's kind of it when you know it's Grace and Clayton's story, and then now Kellen's going to have his story. For this one, I thought it was too soon to get Kellen's story, if I'm being honest. I understand why they wanted it to be Kellen's story, because you still need Clayton, because Clayton is an upperclassman, and you still kind of wanted to have some of the situations while Clayton was still at the school. But I felt that there were other ways that could have probably been handled later on, and Clayton being out of the school, because Cora, who is the love interest in this one, is Clayton's little sister. So there's definitely that butting of heads that carry over from the first book, but I just felt it was too soon. You had Kellen still trying to deal with the feelings of what he was going through from the first book, his kind of own situational awareness, as it were, and you had Cora trying to figure out things as well. And one of the things that there were moments of cuteness that I felt from the first book, that kind of found family feeling, the dynamic of like sweetness. But one of the things I really didn't like is that right off the bat, they're kind of comparing Cora to Grace in a lot of ways, where there's a lot of similarities between them, to where sometimes I felt like Cora was a replacement for Grace in Kellen's world. And I know she wasn't, but it felt that way sometimes, and I didn't like that. And then it also felt like these were 2 people that really needed to kind of figure out their own stuff before coming together. And because of that, things just felt borderline almost toxic. Like, not that they were mean to each other, not that enemy vicious, like we hate each other. So it wasn't that. It was just that this is not the right time for these 2 to be trying to find a serious relationship. There's a lot of self-work that they're having to go on, like, and journeys that they kind of need to do before they have that long-term relationship, if you know what I mean. And right away, within like a week or 2, they're like, without saying I love you, they're implying it in the way that they have these talks. They talk about families, they talk about like all those things that you talk about when you've been dating for a while, and they're making these like kind of declarations of love, like I said, without saying I love you. Very early on, you have Kellen just coming off of what he's coming off of, Cora's, and it just felt jumbled. Like, this is just not the time and place for this. And so while they had the sweet moments, it just wasn't registering to me, because this is one of those ones where I'm like, if I was your friend, I'd be like, no, pause the brakes, let's work on you. Because if you go head bulldozing into a relationship right now, probably not going to be the best outcome, because you guys still have so much to figure out for yourselves. So it is a story that I probably would have rather seen later on in the series, and watch these 2 kind of develop through the series, like maybe have them in book 3 or 4, just because then you could see that kind of growth, and then maybe them coming together, like building them up a little bit, I think would have been better for them. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars. I still love the series. I still want to continue with the series. There are hints at what the 3rd one's going to be about, and it's going to be interesting, because these were 2 characters that I had been really liking in the series so far. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to be. And then there is a quiet, shy character on the team that he kind of keeps to himself. And I want to know his story, because there's so much of him being so quiet, and then little hints that there's more to this guy than meets the eye. And I'm very, very curious as to if he's going to get his own story. So I will be continuing with the series. I really do enjoy it. I just sadly, cross-checked wasn't exactly for me, but I loved Ice. So I do recommend this as a college hockey romance that has, sweetness, found families, good, what they're trying to build in relationship dynamics. I very much value and respect. So I really like it on that end as well. But I ended up reading, cross-checked for the Escape the Readathon for the Gym and Spa Game Challenge. And that was to read a book that had double letters because you had two S's in cross. So we were going to go with that. So next up, we have all the books from the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. I read all of these and did a review on them in a separate video. So if you want details on them, I'm going to go ahead and link that video down below so you can check that out. So I'm just really going to let you know the names, what I rated it, and where it fell for the readathons. So first up, we have Hooked, and that was our Peter Pan retelling. I ended up giving this one 5 stars, loved it. Read it also for the Gym and Spa Game Challenge because it had 2 O's for the double letters. So we went ahead and did that. So next up we had Scarred, which was our Lion King retelling. I gave that one 4 stars, and this was for the Pool Game Challenge, which was an even number of pages. After that, we ended up having Wretched by Emily McIntyre. This was our Wizard of Oz retelling. I gave this one 3 stars. And this one was for the Theater Game Challenge. And that was to read a book of an author that you previously gave 5-star rating to. So obviously, having read Hooked before this, that was a 5-star for me. So it worked out for the prompt. Next up, we had Twisted, which was our Aladdin retelling. And I used this one for the same game challenge, the theater, to read a book with an author you previously gave 5 stars to because it worked for this one as well. Twisted, I ended up giving 4 stars to. Then we had Crossed by Emily McIntyre. This was our Hunchback of Notre Dame and the one I was most worried about. If you wanted to know more, check out the video down below because that one was, I was worried about that one. But I ended up giving that one 4 stars. This one was the game challenge, the same one, theater, read a book for an author you gave 5 stars to because it just fit, and I figured that was going to be one that maybe not a lot of people were clicking on, and since I had them, I was like, we'll put the points there. Next up, we had the last book in the Never After series, and that was Hexed. That was our Little Mermaid retelling, and that honestly was my favorite in the Never After series, and that was 5-star read for me, and we used that one for the bar room, and that was to read a genre blend, which basically you had the retelling, you had the dark romance, you had, a contemporary romance too as well. If you really wanted, you could blend it a bunch of different ways. So that one fit there. So next up, we had another arc that I had read, and I did a video for this one, and I will link it down below, and that was Bound by Her by M.Z. Rylan. This one I ended up giving 5 stars to. Very dark romance, dom sub, where the female is the dom, and involved MMF relationships. More MM in the book than anything else. So definitely check trigger warnings with this one, though. I will say that ahead of checking out the video below. There is a lot of trauma, abuse on scene essay in at least one scene. So definitely check the trigger warnings if that is something that you do on the regular. But I ended up giving it 5 stars, like I said. We ended up reading this for the barroom game, and that was to read a book you didn't buy because I didn't buy it. It was an arc gifted to me, and I am very grateful for that opportunity. So next up, we ended up reading our cocky hero pick, and that was Ruthless Renovator by Paisley Almack. This one was what it was. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I just kind of wanted a little more. You basically have this girl who she used to be a professional skateboarder, started as a teen, and was coached by another teen who had been injured and basically could no longer skateboard. So he kind of coached her, and there was this kind of lifelong crush that she had on him. She reaches the pinnacle of her career. She's going to skate her last skate and retire, and she thinks finally now we can be together, and she watches him walk off with another woman and basically doesn't even celebrate with her and everything, and she is crushed and heartbroken. So time goes by, and she finds out that he ended up getting married to her, and it was just boom, boom, boom. Like, it just kept hitting her, and she's trying to get back on her feet. She is now a talk show host on a podcast or on a radio program that is now rated very high, and they talk about all sorts of things, and lo and behold, she is now going to be interviewing her old lovely coach that, like I said, he's only a few years older than her. And he is divorced and very much plotting and scheming to get back into this girl's life because apparently he's always had a thing for her. So it is kind of that. There is also a skeezy kind of thing going on in the office that adds for the tension. I ended up giving it 3 stars because it felt like one of the biggest things in here was our main male character's reasoning for why he walked away from her. And he does address it simply kind of with some of his friends and discussions, but he never really has that talk with our main female character. Never. Like, never really tells her, I wanted you to kind of grow on your own, or any kind of thing that he had. He never told her. And I felt like that was something that was really big in their relationship dynamic, because she was always wondering why it happened. Why did he walk away? Why wasn't I? And he never really answers it. He just says, I want you now. I've always wanted you. And she kind of just is like, oh, okay. So I didn't really like that. I felt that that was a big key component to something that would have been needed in their relationship to kind of heal and get closure and to be able to move on. And it was just never really addressed in a very well done way for me. So that was a big thing. Next up, it just kind of seems like when they had these little hiccups and disagreements, everything was just really resolved quickly. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. The big kind of pinnacle point in the story that turns and kind of becomes the climax of the story gave me flashbacks to Cocky Professor, where you had the girl all of a sudden feeling overwhelmed and kind of lashing out at the guy and blaming him when the guy really wasn't at fault. If you think about it, yeah, he was doing something that you're like, but it's not really to place, it's not fair to place all the blame on him. And they do kind of address that in the story, which was good, but it was just kind of giving, I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of that. And it was just redone really well. And it just wasn't like, I didn't feel the pressure of the climax and everything, because once again, it was smoothed over quickly and we got to our happy parts very quickly. So it was just one of those ones that I was like, it had its good parts, but I felt like there was a lot of things that were missing, and that the things that were missing to me were very important to the story. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was still like a good, fun read. Obviously, we know we have some of these in the Cocky Hero, and we have some really great books in the Cocky Hero series. Am I going to, discontinue reading the No, we're going to continue, because we still have some wonderful characters that we get to. And so like I said, I ended up giving it 3 stars, and this was also for our bar game, and that was a book that begins with the last letter of the previous read. So our previous read was Bound by Her. Last letter in the title was an R, and in here we get Ruthless Renovator, starting with the R. So I was like, perfect. So we went and we did that. Next up, we had our Magical Readathon Year in Aldia kind of challenge, which we were supposed to read a dystopian book. I'm not a big dystopian person, you guys know this, but I went ahead and decided to take a chance on a very popular author, Laura Thalassa, and I read The Queen of All That Dies. And I gave it 3 stars. It had some very good, interesting things. I think one of the things that kept me going was that this is kind of a romance dystopia versus just like being dystopian. Basically in this, you have Serenity, who is kind of the daughter of one of the council members in the new America, I guess you will. There is a war that has broken up between European nations and America. And it's all due to this King Lazuli, who's basically had this unprecedented rise to power over in Europe. He has basically campaigned all over everything in a way that's very much like Roman Alexander the Great, like just took over everything really quickly. And now basically almost all of Europe is under his control. And you have America that is still kind of resisting him. And there have been nuclear weapons that have been dropped. There is radiation. There are heavy amounts of illnesses and obviously war disasters and starvation going on. And so Serenity's kind of world is it's not what it was when she was growing up, and she's seeing all this go around, and now there are talks of possible peace. So she goes with her father to kind of negotiate peace, never knowing that she is one of the possible bargaining chips in this kind of meeting. And it just kind of takes off from there, and how you're going to navigate this world that's going on when you are very much anti this person. So you have this very much enemies to lovers kind of thing happening. This was action packed. I loved it for the action because you were never getting bored. You were not getting bored with this series because anytime you turned around, there was something going on. So I really liked it for that. Our heroine Serenity is an ultimate badass. Like, she can hold her own, and she's been through it, and you find out that she actually is dying from cancer. And so she's doing all of this with the clock kind of running against her. And it's also kind of nice to see how the king, when he kind of starts falling for her, this is kind of a he falls first scenario. And he finds out these things, the depths that he's willing to go to so quickly to save her, because she very quickly becomes his everything, which I did love. But there were a lot of things in here that felt kind of repetitive. Like, with all the action that was going on, it was kind of like, okay, we've already kind of done this. We've already kind of done this. We've already kind of done this. And when they get to a point where you think their relationship is going to become really solid, something happens that makes it feel a little repetitive to things like they get back to ground one and they got to work their way back up relationship wise, and then something knocks them back down and they got to work them back up. And it just started feeling a little repetitive. And the way that the story left off was very interesting. I didn't really see it coming. But I can see how it's going to set it up in the second book. But I'm curious because the thing that happens now, I'm kind of wondering if it's also going to fall into a little bit of that repetitiveness. I do actually plan on continuing with this trilogy, because even though I'm not the hugest dystopian fan, I felt that this, even though you have this kind of war-torn dystopian world, it felt more of like when you read a fantasy book and you have two different sides at war and what's kind of going on in there. That it felt a lot geared towards that. It's just it was modern world or futuristic world with weapons and technology and all that, because they still talk about like the internet and things like that. So I felt like it was an easier dystopian book for me to get into. I did give it 3 stars just because I had those feelings, like I said, of the repetitiveness. I still enjoyed it. I just kind of maybe wanted more at times with different scenarios going the way they were. So like I said, going to continue the series. We'll see how it goes. I did read this for, like I said, the Magical Readathon here in Aldia for our May pick. So we can continue our travels there. And then I also doubled up and used this as the bar game to read your least read genre. And obviously dystopian is one of my least read genres. That and sci-fi, not my biggest thing. Nothing against it. Fantastic worlds are created. Just not one for space stuff and war-ending zombie apocalypse type things. Just not really my jam. Not anything against it. I've watched quite a few movies about it. It's just not usually the genre that I like to read in books. If it's yours, awesome, because I'm sure they're great. So next up, we picked up the book that I had kind of set aside for May being Asian Appreciation or Asian and Pacific Islander Appreciation Month. And I ended up picking up Breath of the Dragon by Shannon Leanne Fondely. This was one that I had on my shelves for a while due to the fact that Shannon Lee's father is the very infamous, very wonderful, inspiring Bruce Lee. So I did pick that one up. I read it. I ended up giving it 3 stars. This I felt was it's For me, it's a YA fantasy adventure in a very traditional sense. It has a very simplistic story where you have June, who is a twin with his brother Sai, and Sai is something called dragon breathed or breath marked. And basically, what that means is he has little scales from the dragon on his body that kind of mark him as being blessed, if you will, and he's supposed to have a certain skill. And so they live on the east. There's basically the east and the west in this world. And the east, they usually take the kids that are breath marked and they let their families live in honor while the children train to be these kind of, I almost want to say they're like almost like a warrior monk type system. There wasn't a lot of details given on them because that's not really the big, I'm sure we're going to get into it in the sequels to the story. So it's not really touched upon too much of the lifestyles there. It's hinted at, but I feel like we're probably going to get into more of that as readers in the sequel books going forward than we were in this one. But basically, you end up finding out at the time that they come to take June's brother, June goes and tries to say, well, I'm special too. Don't take my brother. Don't separate us. And he starts performing some moves from martial arts. And this makes everybody upset because only those that are breath marked are allowed to practice martial arts. Otherwise, it is very much outlawed. And they find out that his father, who was a martial artist, had been teaching them just kind of to honor the traditions. And once it has been found out, basically, June and his father are cast out to the western side while his mother and his brother go off to join the other breath marked on the east side. And so June now grows up in the west where martial arts is very much every way of life. There are several different schools and he has been training with one school in particular. His father has kind of never touched martial arts after that moment of their separation. There is a tournament going on in the West where you basically find out that there are two scrolls. I think it's the scroll of heaven and earth. And these are scrolls that are supposed to basically have been jotted down by the wife of the dragon god, if you will. And they're supposed to give infinite wisdom and power. And I'm not gonna lie, it very much became Kung Fu Panda for me because all I was thinking of was at this point was the warrior destined to protect the scroll, and Po Panda was just right there at the forefront, which gave me a little giggle. But there is a tournament to select a guardian for the scroll who basically reigns in the West, second only to the Emperor. And June's like still on his path to prove his worth to his dad to the East of, hey, I'm just as special even though I haven't been breath marked. And his father basically shuts down that dream of like, no, you're not going to go participate. You're not going to be a representative. And June runs away. And he kind of runs away onto the caravan of a blind flutist and his adopted daughter who kind of performs in the troupe with her father. And the blind flutist, you find out very much, is more than meets the eye. And he takes on June to kind of start teaching him his method of martial arts to help prepare him for the tournament. And then of course you have the tournament and what goes on from there. So what I love is you do kind of have this kind of, you do also have a rebel uprising, if you will, in the West due to kind of circumstances going on, people wanting to unite the East and the West once again. You still have June wanting to prove himself and eventually get his father and him and his family reunited. But what I loved is even though you had the very simple story, because like I said, it's boy wants his dream, wants to prove himself, goes to a tournament, wants to become like the most powerful on that side. And then he just kind of has the reality set in of the world around him, that growth. What I loved the most about this book is the kind of philosophy behind the fighting styles, which was very much the Bruce Lee philosophy of there is no such thing as one martial art. You can learn from all the martial arts and not anyone is better than anyone else's, and there's pros and cons to all of them, and learning those things and adapting to those styles to make yourself the best fighter imaginable. But also that martial arts isn't just fighting, it's a lifestyle, it's breathing, it's taking care of yourself. It's where's your mind at. It's that synergy that happens that, you know, like I said, was one of the things that Bruce Lee really kind of spoke about. And so I really loved seeing that represented, and it just very much made me think, as a former history, student, just you had the European knights and how learning the art of tournament and jousting and knightly, behaviors, that was a lifestyle as much as it was fighting in wars and battle. And just like the samurai, where it was a code, you had the Bushido code, and you had this ethics and these daily things that you would do, the arts, the calligraphy. It was mind, it was body, it was everything that you were doing. It was an essence of your being. It wasn't just fighting, which is something that I find honestly really beautiful about martial arts and the people who really devote themselves to it, because it is that whole lifestyle that involves every aspect of your being that I really respect it. So I really loved that aspect of it. But the story in itself, like I said, it was very simplistic to me. I think that for somebody in a younger audience, you were teenagers, I would say maybe 13 and up. If you are a parent who doesn't really like a whole lot of violence, I mean, it's not very descriptive violence when it does happen, but it is a martial arts tournament. If you are a little bit more away for it, then wait until they're maybe 15. But I felt that it was very well suited for if you have 13-year-olds, if you have a very much more mature younger person than that, it might be worth it for them. I did like kind of the story that was going on and the world that was going on around them. I do plan on continuing it because I'm very curious to how it cuts off. Where they're going and what's going to kind of happen, and now I'm just kind of wondering, when brother meets brother, what's gonna kind of go down. But like I said, I think the simplicity of that part of the story, and the fact that I kind of wanted to see more of the fights in the tournament, because I wanted to see the different styles represented and how they would combat one another in the ring, so to speak. I was really wanting that, and I felt like that wasn't done to what I was wanting. Was it still a good story? Yes. Were there still really wonderful things in it? Yes. I just wanted more, and that could possibly be just the fact that I'm an adult reader reading what is probably more of a YA book. But still a good book. Definitely recommend it. 3 stars for me, but I did read this one for the concierge desk for doing your pages logged that they needed. I think I had like 200 and something pages logged of this because I had started it beforehand. And it also worked out for our Reddit Fantasy Bingo Challenge, which was to read a book with POC rep, as both authors are of Asian descent, and our character is of Asian descent as well, in a very much Asian-inspired world. This fit that challenge beautifully. So moving on to another book, and there is going to be a separate video for this. It probably just came out before this one. And that was The Fate Date Agreement by Ember L. Nicole. This was another arc that I was fortunate to get my hands on, and I was really wanting to read this one. And this one I ended up giving 5 stars to. Like I said, if you want to know all my thoughts, check out the video link below. But I loved it, adored it. It was everything it needed to be. This book I ended up using for the Escape the Readathon, the dining room game. And this was our murder mystery, and this was to do one of our suspects. So this was my vote for the scientist as a suspect. And this one does come out June 6th. Whether or not this video falls or is coming out around June 6th, it's probably going to be really close to then. So June 6th might be right around the corner. It might have just passed when this video is coming out. So if it's out, go and pick it up. Check out the video below. If not, something to look forward to. But after that, I did read one more book, but I am not touching on it yet. I will cover that later on, so stay tuned for that. So that is kind of the lingering secret, if you will, the infinite 14th book. But I will cover that in another video later on. It was really interesting for doing the Escape the Readathon. Like I said, I did not imagine reading this many books, but I had a blast, and we did manage to complete all the rooms and games and challenges on the cruise. At this point, while filming, I do not know if we succeeded in escaping the cruise ship. So if I find out during the editing process, I will go ahead and pop it up here or pop it in the comments down below so you can see whether or not we escaped our readathon or not. But yeah, I had a blast. We got a lot of books done, and so much so that we beat out February's page count, which, if you remember the beginning, it was 3,533 for our 14 books. In the month of May, we read the same amount of books, but our page count was 5,122 pages, which blew my mind. I did not think that was going to go on. I'm kind of floored, but I'm very proud of myself, because after having so many months where I haven't really felt like I have achieved all the things I wanted to do for the month, it was really refreshing to do that and feel that, and it was great, and I loved it, so yay! But other than that, let me know if you guys did the Escape the Readathon as well. What team were you on? Did you guys complete all your challenges or not? And just your favorite book of the month that you've been reading. If you're doing any other challenges, how are you guys getting on with those? Let me know in the comments below. Reach out, share a book that blew your mind. And yeah. So with all that being said, I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are taking in the good weather that is coming your way, hopefully. Ours has been storms, heat, but that is our summer weather here. So we just keep pushing through it. But hope all is well. Stay safe, stay warm, stay hydrated, or stay cool, I should say. Either way, stay hydrated, take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.